Why would you step into cold water? Because that's the first thing I think people think. I mean, every time I tell somebody I have a cold plunge, like we tell anybody, whether they be a coworker, a friend, or family, they're like, why? First question, why? Why would you purposely go into a
Yeah.
cold body of water? Explain.
Yeah, why would you want to put your body through that pain? Yeah, so kind of the science behind cold plunging is the vasoconstriction and vasodilation of your blood vessels. So when you get into a body of water that's very cold like that, whether you're in the cold plunge or even in the cold shower, your blood vessels are going to constrict to conserve heat. And it's kind of a protective response from the body. It's just a natural thing. You're exposed to cold, your body's going to react. So when you're in the cold water, uh, you get that vasoconstriction. Your body's trying to conserve the heat, maintain, that core body temperature for the body. And so that's all when you're in the cold water, you're immersed in it, in the cold shower, in the cold plunge, whatever. But right when you leave the cold plunge, the cold shower is when you get that vasodilation. Your blood vessels open up, they dilate, and it leads to really great health benefits like increased blood flow and rewarming of the body. So that's kind of like the biggest thing that's going on with your body when you're exposed to cold water, kind of the science aspect around that.
So you'd say like the first thing you're looking for is just like the reaction in the body.
Reaction in
So
the
you want
body.
the reaction of the body, and the biggest reaction that happens in the body is the blood just starts flowing everywhere.
Yep.
Like blood, at first when you're in it, it stops flowing everywhere and it kind of constricts. You're saying, and then after it opens up and everything just starts flowing really heavily.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why a lot of people like the cold plunging is because you feel good. Your blood vessels are dilated, blood's flowing to all around different parts of your body. So when you that's like right when you get out of the cold plunge, everyone has that feel good effect. Like I feel great. So that's kind of like the main science behind it of what's going on in the body. And that brings us into what happens right after is the release of endorphins. Endorphins are kind of like the feel good um, chemicals in the body, the natural painkillers or the mood
Yeah.
enhancers. You feel really really good when you get out of the cold plunge, and um, that's like the main benefit and effect that happens right after you get out.
Yeah, that was like one of the biggest reasons. I mean, there was like two big reasons I got in, but the one big reason was for sure the endorphins. Like the feel good of it is just absolutely insane. Like if you think going to work out feels good, and then coming out and like yeah, you feel good about yourself because you put yourself through a hard workout. The cold plunge is like that on steroids.
It's
It's
so good.
ridiculous.
It's so good. Like when you first start cold plunging and you get into it, you put your mind to it. Like you're gonna do this for a couple minutes. That's all you need really is a couple minutes of being in the cold water. But right when you first start doing it, the first week, you're gonna get out of there and feel amazing. That's why another reason why I love to do it in the morning. Great way to start off your day. You're feeling good for a prolonged period of time after you cold plunge. So starting your day like that, you really have a good outlook for the rest of the day.
So you're saying I agree with that entirely, by the way.
Yeah.
But so you're saying so far we have the blood flow, we have endorphins start being released, and with those endorphins being released, I want to talk a little bit about that. Like, how do those endorphins get released? So from what I know, like they get released because you have like certain emotions that you experience when you're in the cold plunge, and then you kind of get the opposite of them after. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure the exact science. What's the exact science necessarily behind these endorphins being released and like these neurotransmitters just all kicking off?
yeah. Like one of the ways like I can understand that, and I don't know if this is the best way to explain it, but um, when people take a drug called cocaine, uh, it's kind of like the same like feel good effect of like I feel great, like everything's good, like I just feel very uplifted is the best way to explain it. So that's the reason why people do cocaine, like it's a really uplifting thing. Um, and it deals with the like there are neurotransmitters in the brain, and there's a bunch of different neurotransmitters that have different purposes. I'm not sure the exact endorphins that are released with the cold plunge.
I mean,
But
dopamine is the most obvious one.
dopamine, yeah, dopamine's
That's what we look at.
dopamine's the biggest one. That's relating that to cocaine. Is when you take cocaine, you get that really huge spike in dopamine, the feel good neurotransmitter is what it is. So I guess yeah, to your point, the biggest neurotransmitter is dopamine. That's what's being released. That's like the mood enhancer. That's what's making you feel good. But to relate that to cocaine and kind of like the science behind the difference between cocaine and a cold plunge is when you take cocaine, you get that really huge mood enhancement, spike in dopamine. And then one of the things with cocaine is you crash, like, and that's what makes cocaine so addictive is you feel good and then you crash and then you're like, oh, I want more of that. I want to get more of that feel good. So with cold plunge, the biggest difference is you get into the cold water, you get out, you get that spike in dopamine, you're feeling really good. But the difference between cocaine and cold plunge is the cold plunge, you don't ever receive that dip, that loss of dopamine. It's a prolonged like decrease in that spike of feeling good. That's why I like doing the cold plunge in the morning. Like you feel good for most of the day, if not all the day.
Well, because you do experience, I would say you do experience the dip. The dip's just not after the good effects; it's before.
Yeah.
You induced the dip.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're doing drugs to get dopamine, there was no dip ever. You just took the drugs. You went from good or whatever you were at before, and you just went up without having to ever dip
Baseline.
anywhere. Yeah, you didn't have to ever dip from your baseline. That's not like how that endorphins work. Like it's not gonna. With the cold plunge, you're dipping yourself, literally dipping yourself in the water, but dipping your dopamine down as low as you can, and then it just skyrockets back up over the baseline.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the difference between like doing drugs and the cold plunge for that dopamine is
The difference between doing drugs and a cold plunge.
oh, there's a lot of good science behind like coming off like recovery from doing cocaine, like cocaine addicts, and actually doing cold plunges.
Yeah, they use
which
the
is
cold
very
plunge.
interesting.
They use the cold. I've heard that they use the cold plunge in like these drug rehabilitation centers to get that dopamine for the person that's used to getting it all the time from the drugs, because then they have no dopamine. They're just stuck at the dip.
Yeah.
They're stuck below their baseline, and that's why these people get depressed. Like they just do terrible things. They go back to the drugs, whatever. So they put them in the cold plunge, and then hopefully it's gonna get their dopamine back to up to their baseline or over. What are the exact numbers on that again? Isn't it 2 times your baseline, 2.5 times your baseline
Yeah,
you can reach?
it's something like that. It's pretty. I think it might even be like 3 to 5 times your baseline, which makes cold plunging so profound. But yeah, it's used with drug addicts. I think mainly like people addicted to cocaine, and using it to help them recover from that terrible drug addiction. But yeah, so that's the endorphin part of the science behind cold plunge. One of the things that I was also interested in when I first started cold plunging was the activation of brown fat in the body and everything related to that. Because one of the things when I started cold plunging was, I was hitting the gym a lot more. I was trying to lose weight, and cold plunging is something that directly affects the brown fat, which in turn can burn calories in the body. That's another thing that I really love about cold plunging.
Yeah, how does it actually stimulate the activation of the brown fat, like the adipose tissue? How does that work?
I'm not sure exactly how it works. It's kind of like you have two different types of fat in the body: the brown fat and white fat. White fat stores energy, and brown fat, I think, is contributing to burning energy and calories. Or brown fat generates heat by burning calories.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the whole difference. Just that when cold plunging, you get a lot of brown fat adipose tissue activation, which
generates heat. So maybe that's why, because you're cold, so your brown fat needs to start kicking off to generate heat.
And that goes back to
just for your body in general.
Yeah, exactly. That goes back to the vasoconstriction of your blood vessels. When your blood vessels are vasoconstricting, your body's trying to actively conserve heat. Yeah. Your bodies are very smart. a thing. It can do a lot. So when you're exposed to extreme temperatures, which is not even extreme with the cold plunge, it's just very different than what we're used to throughout the day. We're used to sitting in a temperature controlled house.
Yeah.
If it's the summer, like you wear,
It's temperature controlled at all times of the year. Whether it's summer
exactly.
and it's hot, people run their AC. During the winter, they run their heat. How many people really don't use their heat or AC a year? Like, that's just not common, at least in
Yeah,
USA.
you're constantly exposed to a temperature controlled environment. So that's another really cool thing about cold plunging is you're purposely putting your body through. I think it's a good stress. You're purposely putting your body through a good stress, and you're reaping a lot of the benefits that happen. And basically all the different things going on as you're being exposed to that cold
Yeah,
water.
they call that eustress, right?
Yep.
That's a
You
eustress.
stress, the good
That's
stress.
a positive stress. So that's like an induced positive stress since we never have to face stress based on, the environment temperatures. So so we have blood flow. So you're saying some fat loss in terms of like your brown fat burning, burning calories, like generating heat.
Yeah.
Um, we have endorphin releases. We have a nervous system. Oh, that's the next one we could do is the nervous system stimulation.
And I think that's a really cool one.
Yeah, that's
Um,
like the biggest thing I notice when I'm in there. You could know in real time that your nervous system is just freaking out.
Exactly, and anybody that's taken a science class, you've probably heard of the two different parts of the nervous system: the fight or flight response, and the rest and digest response. So when you're in the cold plunge, you get that fight or flight response, which contemporarily with the cold plunge boosts your energy and alertness. So that's another reason why doing it in the morning is so productive. Is I like to get all my work done in the morning, so doing the cold plunge boosts my energy, boost my productiveness for whatever I might be doing. And I'm like, I want to get stuff done. Like I want to go. I want to be very productive. So the nervous system stimulation is huge with the
Well, that's
cold
why
plunge.
people like to do it before exercise. Like I hear the professional athletes, a lot of them are doing cold plunges before their workouts, and it's activating their nervous system. And when they get out, like they just feel insane during their workout. So it can really just help get you going, especially in the morning when you wake up from sleep. Like you need to get going, and that'll be the number one thing. That'll just kick you into gear. Like you think a coffee is gonna wake you up, caffeine does not affect your nervous system the same way the cold plunge seems to.
Yeah, that's one of the I wish when I played soccer I was doing cold plunging before. I think it would have been really
Oh
really
yeah, like
useful.
before a game. Yeah,
Oh
that'd be
yeah.
nuts. I know, and then you do like a nice half hour, 45-minute warm up your body. Oh yeah, you'll be good to roll.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would have been
that would have been a great idea.
really
Okay,
good.
so we have nervous system stimulation. So we can do like reduction of inflammation next. So that's the other thing. And that was like the big thing that was I was saying two things earlier was the endorphins, and then the other big like motive for me ever getting in the cold plunge at first was the reduction of inflammation. So
Totally.
I was like working out a ton, and I was like, what's the best recovery method? And you see it everywhere, like the ultra recovery, and yeah, it's that it's thought to reduce your inflammation, especially your muscles, and
Yeah, and muscle recovery.
that's why they say like a disclaimer, like you shouldn't do the cold plunge right after your workout because it really does help recover your muscles, and that's like you don't want to start that process yet necessarily. You need natural stuff to kind of take place before you start trying to reduce them. But like the next day, like when you're really sore, to hop in that cold plunge, oh my god, it feels great.
Amazing. Yeah, so just a little behind the inflammation reduction is how that all works is the when you expose your body to the cold, it can decrease blood flow to those tissues and slow down the metabolic processes, alleviating that inflammation and soreness that you have from that workout, that soccer game, that sporting event, whatever. So the cold therapy is really good with muscle recovery in athletes and anyone that's training or